Hello, everyone. Greetings from Spain. My name is DIANA Robla, and I work in the Health and Safety Service of the Galician Health Service. In first place, I would like to thank the Congress organizers and EPM for the invitation to this MAPO workshop. In this presentation, we are going to show firstly, how this methodology, which was born in Italy more than 20 years ago, can be applied to assess patient handling tasks in different settings, both hospital and social care. And secondly, how MAPO methodology is nowadays also applied in several countries in Europe, America, and even Asia. MAPO has been the reference method in Italy with several scientific papers for more than 20 years, including the method manual as well as the various validation studies carried out to date and which have already been presented by my colleague Natalia Battelli. As regard to the application of MAPO in different scenarios, it's useful to remember that the ISO technical report establishes the criteria for carrying out the risk management of these tasks, which are based on the identification of those risk factors that can cause musculoskeletal disorders. These factors would be organizational aspects such as the number of workers, the number and type of patients to be handled, the equipment to be used during handlings, the characteristics of the workspaces, workers' training, and finally, as a fundamental part of the preventive strategy, the effectiveness check. All these factors are considered by MAPO method when assessing this task. But we should also bear in mind that ISO Guide 51, which provides requirements and recommendations for the drafters for the inclusion of safety aspects in ISO standards, is applicable to any safety aspect related to people, property, or the environment, or to a combination of these. Therefore, following ISO recommendations regarding the steps to be followed in risk assessments, as any other safety assessment, the starting point should be hazard identification. In other words, the presence of handling people tasks. If these tasks need to be carried out, the first step will be the risk estimation, and depending on the results, we will know whether if a risk assessment with a specific methodology is necessary or not. In the case of MAPO, the method allows these two levels of analysis: estimation with MAPO screening and evaluation with MAPO checklist. This provides us with information on the risk index as well as the worker's exposure level. When the value of MAPO index is 0, the exposure level is absent. With a risk index between 0.1 and 1.5, the exposure level is negligible. With a risk index between more than 1.5 and 5, the exposure level is medium. And finally, if the MAPO index is more than 5, the exposure level is high. The MAPO assessment process consists of two phases. Firstly, an interview with the person in charge of the work. The aim of this interview is to obtain information concerning work organization and activity data, such as the number of workers, number and type of disabled patients, types of handling tasks, aid equipment used, and staff training. With this data, it's now possible to apply MAPO screening and get a risk level estimation. The second step, which complements the first phase, consists of a workplace inspection, during which the aid equipments and workspaces, like rooms, bathrooms, where patients transfer are usually carried out and assessed. In addition, this visit also serves to verify the data collected during the interview. And well, with all this information will allow us a specific risk assessment through the MAPO checklist, determining the risk index and workers' exposure level. MAPO can be used to analyze patient handling tasks in hospitals as well as nursing homes. This allows for a first level of analysis, which would be the risk estimation, and a second and deeper level of analysis, which will be the risk assessment. At both levels of analysis, it's possible to determine the risk index and the worker's exposure level. Even though when it comes to the handling of patients, we usually think about hospital wards and nursing homes. But the truth is that there are also other areas within a hospital where the handling and transfer of people is necessary during care activities. Therefore, these work areas must also be assessed. And since these spaces are spaces with different characteristics, needs, and work organization, MAPO offers different versions to evaluate each of these activities, such as surgical areas and outpatient areas. In all cases, there is a first estimation or screening phase and an assessment phase, following the same logic assessment as hospital wards and nursing homes. It allows us to assess the risk based on the level of exposure and frequency of handling tasks. However, in the case of emergency rooms, home care, and physiotherapy or rehabilitation services, these areas are still under worldwide research. And although progress has been made, there has been no validated method for assessing these areas of the healthcare facility yet. In this workshop, Olga Menoni will be presenting the results of her research on the prevalence of musculoskeletal injuries among home care workers and the main preventive measures in order to reduce this risk of this task. And with regard to the dissemination of the method, it's important to note that the risk factors considered by MAPO for the assessment of patient handling tasks, type of patient, aids and equipment, training, environment, posture and force, and organizational factors, all of them are common aspects to be considered in any place or country where these tasks are performed. For this reason, are included in the ISO technical report as well. And so this makes it possible that MAPO method can be applied in any hospital or nursing home where these tasks are carried out. With regard to the risk factors considered by MAPO, it's necessary to make a clarification concerning the work organization, because developments for better or worse in hospital care in Europe and internationally have led to different organizational scenarios for exposed staff. For the first two scenarios, three-shift rotation or three-shift rotation plus staff members working day shifts and or in part-time shifts, the MAPO index not only identifies the risk level for the whole work, but also determines the risk exposure of the workers involved in these tasks, except for the part-time workers or staff who only work day shifts. But in the case of 12-hour shift workers, it adds two problems. Firstly, the lack of concentration between the 9th and 12th hour. And secondly, a multiplier risk factor of 1.5 with respect to the MAPO index for operators rotating on 3 shifts. One of the first countries where the spread of the method began was Spain, where a group of experts in ergonomics and professionals from the hospital sector, along with the Italian authors, was set up and formed the Spino Group. This group carried out the work of translating and adapting MAPO to the reality of Spanish institutions. And thanks to the Spino Group and its work in disseminating the method, MAPO is now the assessment tool recommended by the National Institute for Safety and Health at Work in Spain for carrying out the risk assessment for patient handling tasks. Furthermore, a handbook has also been published in Spanish, and several studies have been carried out, which will be presented later on this workshop by my colleague Sonia Taylor. At the same time, there is an English version of the MAPO manual, and several scientific publications in prestigious journals are also available for Anglo-Saxon countries. The method is included as well in the International Encyclopedia of Ergonomics and Human Factors. MAPO has also been disseminated in other European countries, like the Swedish Agency for Work Environment Expertise, that proposes MAPO as one of the assessment methodologies to be used. Moreover, MAPO has also participated in international projects like the European Commission Tandem Project, whose objective was focused on innovation in ergonomics in the health sector for the improvement of working conditions and quality of care. And last but not least, we shouldn't forget the important role that training plays in the right spreading and application of the method. Numerous courses have been conducted through the EPM International School and CENEA in mainly Europe and Latin America. But not only in Europe and America, MAPO has also been disseminated in some countries such as Japan, India, and Iran. Well, we've now reached the end of our presentation. I wouldn't like to finish without thanking everyone for your attention, and I give the floor to my next colleagues. Thank you very much.